Hello. So for my interview, I interviewed Steve Peterson. He is a Utah State alum. He's from Salt Lake. He actually comes up here and speaks at the entrepreneur class thing or whatever. But um, really successful entrepreneur. And what he did was he started a company back in the day called AI Systems. Basically, what this was is during the time when computers all started to come out, there's a software that architects would use called CAD. It was a lot easier to use it on the computer because of whatever reason, I'm not sure why, than what it was to draw it. So at the time, it was very expensive to buy this software. So Steve, his dad, who was an architect, and another guy, I don't know his name, created a software that could provide you about 90% of the capability that the CAD software could at about 10% of the cost. So, um, found a really great product. He recognized the opportunity because his dad was an architect. And like I said, drafting by hand was very inefficient, and so the computers are way more efficient. So that's kind of how he got into it. Um, he his dad was pretty much like his mentor and advisor. Basically, they just hit a like an amazing product because the first year they came out with it, they did $1 million in orders, and they pocketed 400 grand. So right off, they started making money. So they didn't really like they built a lot of, like, they still use like funded the business through like credit lines and banks and stuff, but for the most part, they didn't have to worry a lot about um, going into debt. So so he through his team, he a lot of it was automated, so he didn't really have to like hire a huge team because he just automated a lot of it. Um, uh, let's see. So they were very resourceful too. He told me, he's like, yeah, when we first started out, our first desk was a table, or our first desk was a door. And I was like, holy crap. Um, but anyway, so the status of the business today, um, he sold it to a company called Imaginative in 2000. It was a they're like a public company. I'm not really sure why. But yeah, did really well. And then I asked him if it was a good time when he got out. He's like, yeah, it was really good. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But mistakes that he made along the way. So I think they tried to please their vendors too much. Where like vendors would really want picky things done, and they'd spend a lot of money to fix it. But what they should have done is just incorporated their own system and then just mass produce that. So they tried to, like, I think, please their vendors too much. Um, yeah, and then he talked a lot about too. He's like, don't depend on third party um, apps. So yeah. Um, Kind of the biggest thing, like he said, that stuck out to me was when I asked him what the keys to building like a successful business were, is he's just like, never give up. He's like, every time you trip, every time you fall, reevaluate what you're doing, and then just go at it again. He told me he works 16-hour days, that he'd get up at 6 a.m. and go to bed at 12 p.m. Um, he would bring his lunch and dinner to work, and but the biggest thing that he said, he said he just loved it though. He loved the process, and that's one thing that I've learned is, in order to be successful at business, you have to love the process. You have to love what you're doing. And he's like, it was a hobby for me. He's like, um, He's like, I loved getting up early. He's like, I loved all day. He loved working through the problems. And because he loved it, that's why it was successful. And so that's probably the biggest thing that stuck out to me. And that's what I took away is like, I want my business. I want to work hard. I want to love my business and love what I choose to do. Um, One of the biggest things he said though was he put all of his money back into real estate. So he became a developer, and he said his real estate development made way more money than any of his business. So that's another huge thing is that uh, he reinvested all this money he made into his business into real estate, and that's his other journey in life after 2000 is he said he made tons of money just doing real estate and building huge buildings in Salt Lake right now. So that's kind of the story, and I appreciate your time.